is the most creative person that I've ever met, and this is what we came up with. And he's so bummed that he's not here, and he said to say hi to everybody.
It's everywhere.
So it's everywhere. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you're taller than he is.
I was going to do his accent. Gentlemen. But I'm not. Gentlemen, it is killing me being on the wrong side of the continent this weekend. He probably means it. While I am bummed, my absence guarantees that Andrew Carroll finishes one place higher in the KOM. In lieu of a not quite smooth East Coast riding style, I leave my fellow riders the following precap of the 2011 edition of the Steel Wool Cobble Classic. The light in the bedroom was soft. A trace of morning fog leaked into the window. A brush brushed across his brow. He awoke by the sound of his heart rate monitor alarm. Wait for it. Set of course to signal when resting heart rate drops below 42. And turned his head to give a kiss to his podium girl, Niggers, lying by his side. He jumped out of bed and donned his bibs and spun down the spiral staircase. Chris had cooked up his morning breakfast burritos for his power assault.
I know, I saw it.
Okay.
And made for an extra for Il Director and Mike Moore. He figured he could call back the favor for a pull later in the day. Lesser riders take note of his experience. Chris opened that door to his garage and was taken aback by the sight of Coletti's Steel Wool #1. It was sought over and hand-built specifically for this ride. The tubes were matched to his body. The geometry was tweaked. The welds were perfect. It glistened. It was beautiful. It was his pride. It is his joy. It was his fault he did not build it up for the ride.
Poetic.
Chris opened the garage door, slipped on his shoes, mounted his shiny 8 bicycle, and spun away from the house towards Santa Fe Court. His breathing was calm. His cadence relaxed. He arrived at HQ and saw other riders buzzing about. Elegant chariots of steel, titanium, and carbon were racked in line, poised for a day of powerful riding. The sole exception was a bike embezzled with the name Moore on the top tube. So light, in fact, it was literally floating above the bike rack like a balloon in the sky. Riders sipped coffee as they watched the future take hold of their steeds. The kids' race was about to begin. Peter DiPolo was fresh back from the wind tunnel. New aero bars, of course, and a rear disc graced his BMX cruiser. Olive abandoned her bike this year in favor of a pony named Love. The Carroll boys were balancing in their track stands, making a mockery of their competition handling skills. The gun fired, and the kids fired off. The SRAM power meter affixed to one kid's bike registered a full 62 watts. One lap of a lifetime. A man answering to Bernil was spotted deep in the 4th row of the crowd looking for future talent. The future can ride, my friends. Il Director had just got off duty that morning and was updating the blog as he woke up and put his shoes on. He walked outside and then updated the blog. He took a sip of morning coffee and was about to blog again. But his phone rang. It was Dougie Fresh. Fresh wanted to get the scoop on the bookie. And know who to size up. Jake simply said, Mark Tolson. The founders of Steel will write as one. Jake then proceeded to blog about this phone call. Next, he'll direct orders, gave the welcome and the announcements. Graham's attention faded as Jake spoke in front of the map. His eyes dilated, his mouth salivated. His attention refocused. Nothing else in the world mattered except for the red KOM arrow on the map. He scoffed the thought of Elise taking his glory. The day was his, and his alone. Following the speech, Mike Moore then pulled the bike out of the clouds in which it had floated. Although all 80 pounds of Mike couldn't quite pull it back to earth. It simply hovered about the ground as the weir of the Campy Drive trains pulled out from formation down the road and up to the ride of the year. The blur of black and white and baby blue rolled through scents, Santa Cruz eucalyptus, strawberry fields, and some funny smelling smoke coming from the side of the road. While Peter took a flyer, the Peloton rode light. Although heart rates were low, spirits were high. There was talk of families, parties, and emergency preparedness training getting ready for the ride. Corey Coletti asked if the rumor was true. Word is that Dave Reed carried last year's shellac steel wool cobble trophy over in the plane and kept it in his jersey pocket as he conquered Paris with Paris. The man on the lugged steel rock lobster chuckled under the laughing cow cheese was chewing. Dave said, well, that's only part true. I didn't just do PvP. I did Santa Cruz, New York City, then swam across the Atlantic, pulling my bike behind in a light raft, then rode Paris, and then swam back, then back to New York City, and this time taking the southern route across the states back to Santa Cruz. All the while with the cobble in his jersey pocket. Keeping it close reminded him of his fellow riders. Brent overheard the spectacle and took solace in Dave's lack of preparation. He figured Dave left his best performance somewhere between Paris and the Mississippi River. Check one off the list. Onward toward the climb, they spun. Appleton was in a fluster. He had just climbed Zayante 8 days before and was concerned that the timing of his pro taper would affect his form. Chris told him to stop talking, that his excessive panting would waste energy he'd need for the summit punch. Craig was talking up his new carbon fiber wonder machine with eyes smiling wide, but Chris noted he'd have no metal or physical advantage today, as his new bike was not ready to play. Ryan was wishing the ride was on Sunday, so he could get one more emergency training ride, Saturday ride before the deadline. The calendar was against him. Dan Perry was a newbie to this sort of endeavor. He shaved his legs like a cyclist, but did the standout swimmer have anything more in common with the men on wheels? Hess is strong, but may be overtrained for making too many messenger bags during the taper phase last week. Andrew's taper was strong. It began about 5 years ago. Awkward. But has he actually ridden since last year? The buffalo was out grazing in the field, not present in the peloton. Trowgett appeared confident. His 120-mile sufferfest would dwarf this ascent. Wouldn't it? Would experience on Liège, Bastogne, Liège, Tour of California, Crit International come in handy for Tolson? Or would experience take over? Just how would the ex-pro talent of the Steel Wool Peloton play out on today's climb? Grin sized up his rivals and dismissed them one by one. The day was his. He reached for the smooth, campy carbon lever and produced 2 melodic precision rapids. His 150-pound frame rose off the saddle. His cadence accelerated. Under cloak of redwoods, his effort was matched. With him was Moore, Appleton, Fresh, Hess, Coletti, Copey, Tolson, Reed, Merckx, and Eno. Legends riding with legends. This felt right. There was a calm in the pain that was pleasing to the Grand. He played smart and sucked a wheel behind Fresh. Around the switchback, he and Hess rocketed up towards Merckx. Hess would have stayed up in there, but was falling back, and he was blogging about it. He's good. Appleton dropped back, as well to blog about Jake's blog post. Gren SRAM was reading 880 Motto e Mono, Eno and Gren. Gren remembered Bernard's legacy, ripping the legs off lesser men. Today would be the day that Eno lost his legs. Gren rose up for one last burst, focused, powerful, now sprinting, working the bars, working the pedals, working his soul. Chris takes the summit finish by a rim whip. He rips his jersey off, points up to the sky, and roars out, "Gren Wool is mine!" He screams. I mean, Steel Wool. I mean... Sorry, I screwed this part up. I mean, Steel Wool. I mean, what the hell? I have my chamois on backwards! Chris notices he's still in the garage, daydreaming yet again. He changes his shorts, mounts his steed, and then rolls off into the morning fog to ride with his friends, ride for spirit, and ride for life. To the riders of Steel Wool, we salute you.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, this morning was great with you. This morning you commentating, you know.
Yeah, big hand for your